The lecture hall stretched wide and tall, filled with students from 40 different worlds. Their scales, feathers, and skin in colors that Earth's old painters could never have imagined. They sat in rows that curved upward like an ancient amphitheater, all eyes fixed on the elderly professor at the front. Professor moved slowly across the stage. His forearms gestured as he spoke, his voice carrying through the chamber without need for amplification. He had taught at Galactic University for 60 cycles, and this was his favorite lecture, the one about extinct civilizations and the dangers they once posed. In the back row, hidden beneath a deep hood, sat perfectly still. She had learned to make herself small to go unnoticed. Her human features stayed in shadow. Around her, students whispered and took notes on floating data screens. None of them knew what she was. None of them would believe it if she told them. Today, the professor began, we discuss the most dangerous species in recorded galactic history. The room fell silent. Students leaned forward. This was the lecture they all waited for. Brought up a holographic display. Images of different alien races appeared, rotating slowly in the air. Many believed they were the deadliest. War-born, engineered for combat, they conquered 12 systems before internal conflict destroyed them. The image showed massive creatures with armored plates and multiple weapon limbs. Others point to the whose biological weapons could sterilize entire worlds. Another image appeared, showing beings with translucent wings. They killed billions before the plague they created turned on them. The professor paused for effect. He was good at this, at building tension. But there was one species more dangerous than all others, not because they were stronger, not because they were more numerous, but because of what they were capable of becoming. A new image appeared, felt her chest tighten. It was a human, a simple photograph from Earth's archives, hundreds of years old, a woman in a blue uniform smiling at the camera. Humanity, said the word like a curse, from a planet they called Earth. The students murmured. Some had heard stories, most thought they were myths. Earth was what we classify as a Class 12 death world. Gravity 1.3 times galactic standard, atmosphere with 21% oxygen creating frequent wildfires, weather systems of devastating power, tectonic plates in constant motion causing earthquakes and volcanic eruptions, and predators, so many predators. The hologram changed, showing Earth's creatures, lions, bears, sharks, crocodiles. Humanity evolved as persistent hunters, the professor continued. They could not run as fast as their prey, could not climb as well, could not hide as effectively, so they did something else. They followed, for days, for weeks if necessary. They tracked their prey until the animal collapsed from exhaustion and then they killed it. A student in the third row, a being made of crystalline structures, raised a limb. Professor, surely other species hunt. Hunt, yes, but humans brought something new to the galaxy, pattern recognition at levels we had never seen, the ability to see connections, to plan, to anticipate, combined with endurance that seemed limitless. They could run for hours, swim for miles, survive injuries that would kill most species, and most terrifying of all, they could choose. Let that word hang in the air. Humans could be more compassionate than any species we had encountered. They kept animals as companions, not as food or tools. They created art that moved the soul. They wrote poetry. They laughed. But they could also be more violent than anything the galaxy had ever seen. They invented weapons that could crack planets. They fought wars that lasted generations. The same hands that painted masterpieces could also strangle the life from an enemy. The hologram showed human history, cities rising and falling, wars spreading across continents, then space travel, colonies on other worlds, ships venturing into the galaxy. 300 cycles ago, humanity joined the galactic community. For 73 cycles, they participated in trade, in cultural exchange, in scientific cooperation. They were loud, curious, aggressive in business but not in war. They asked questions constantly, wanted to know how everything worked, pushed boundaries that most species respected. And then, 300 years ago, they went silent. The hologram showed Earth and its colonies, all the lights going out one by one. We call it the silence. Over the course of a single solar cycle, every human station, every human ship, every human colony stopped transmitting, stopped responding to messages, simply ceased all communication. Those who traveled to investigate found settlements abandoned, ships floating empty in space. No bodies, no signs of struggle, just absence. Looked around the room. The galaxy searched for answers. Some thought they had destroyed themselves in a final war. Others believed a plague had taken them. A few whispered about stranger theories. But as years became decades and decades became centuries, we accepted the truth. Humanity was gone, extinct, and honestly. He paused. Most species were relieved. A few students shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Humanity was unpredictable, dangerous, too clever and too willing to take risks. Their death worlds had made them hardy and aggressive. Their culture celebrated competition. Many believed it was only a matter of time before humans became a threat to galactic peace. So when they disappeared, we mourned briefly. Then we moved on. The galaxy felt safer without them. His hands gripped the edge of her desk beneath her cloak. Her knuckles were white. Today, humanity serves as a reminder, concluded. A warning about the dangers of species from death worlds, about the risks of unchecked ambition. They burned bright and fast, and then they burned out. The most dangerous species in galactic history is gone. We can study them safely now as history, as a cautionary tale. The professor smiled. Questions. Dozens of hands, limbs, and appendages rose into the air. Students eager to know more about the frightening extinct species. But's hand rose higher than all others. Pointed to her. Yes, student in the back. Stood slowly. Around her, students turned to look. She reached up and pushed back her hood. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Her face was smooth and soft compared to the scales and chitin of her classmates. 2 eyes, not 3 or 4 or 12. Hair that grew from her scalp in dark waves. Skin without patterns or adaptive camouflage. Fingers with no claws, just flat nails. Teeth meant for both plants and meat. Undeniably human features. Professor, she said, and her voice carried clearly despite its quietness. With respect, the deadliest species is not gone. Stared at her, his forearms froze in mid-gesture. There is called Earth, sir. Met his eyes directly, the way humans did when they meant every word, and I am from there. The silence that followed was absolute. No one moved, no one breathed. Then chaos erupted, students shouting, some standing, others backing away, data screens flashing as they searched for information, trying to verify what their eyes were telling them. Security, alarms began to wail. Stood frozen on his stage, staring at the impossible student in his classroom. The student who should not exist, could not exist. The student who had just proven that everything he taught was wrong. Remained standing, her hood fallen back, her human face visible to everyone. She did not run, did not hide. After 20 years of silence, of pretending to be something else, she was done hiding. Let them see, let them know, humanity was not extinct. And it was time. The galaxy learned the truth about what really happened during the silence. The lecture hall doors burst open. Security forces rushed in, weapons drawn. They surrounded, shouting orders in 6 different languages. She raised her hands slowly, palms out, showing she was unarmed. A very human gesture of peace. As they led her away, she looked back at Professor one last time. The old scholar was still standing frozen, his worldview shattered in the span of 30 seconds. Smiled sadly. The real lesson was about to begin. The interrogation chamber was cold and sterile. White walls reflected harsh lights that had no shadows. sat in a chair designed for beings much larger than her feet barely touching the floor. Across a metal table, 3 figures studied her with varying degrees of suspicion and fascination. Chancellor On spoke first. He was tall and thin, with skin that shifted colors based on his emotions. Right now it flickered between deep blue and sharp red, uncertainty and anger. "This is impossible," he said flatly. "Humans have been extinct for 3 centuries. You are clearly young, mid-20s at most. Your story makes no sense." Met his gaze calmly. "I am biologically 23 years old, but I was born 316 years ago." Security chief slammed a hand on the table. His species had thick, rock-like skin and a temper to match. "Lies, genetic manipulation. You are some other species altered to look human, trying to cause panic." The third figure, a slender being with too many joints in her arms, raised a delicate hand. "Perhaps we should allow her to explain before we assume deception." Chancellor On nodded slowly. "Very well, speak. Tell us how a human child survived 300 years." Took a slow breath. This was the moment she had prepared for since waking up 20 years ago, since learning the truth about what her parents had done. "I need to tell you about my family first," she began. "My mother was named. She worked as a deep space analyst for Earth's Science Directorate. My father was Song, a commander in the Planetary Defense Forces. I had a younger brother, Minyu, and a best friend named Lee. We lived in a city by the ocean." The memories were sharp despite the centuries. She could still smell the salt water, still hear Minyu's laugh when they played on the beach. "I was 7 years old when everything changed. My mother started working late every night. My father would come home with this look on his face, like he was carrying something too heavy. They thought I did not notice, but children always notice when their parents are scared. One night I woke up and heard them talking. They did not know I was listening. My mother was crying. She said they had less than 2 years. My father said the simulations all showed the same result: total extinction within a century." Chancellor On leaned forward. "Extinction of what?" "Everything," said quietly. "The entire galaxy." Scoffed. "Ridiculous. What could possibly threaten the entire galaxy?" "We called it the chorus." Closed her eyes, remembering the classified files she had read after waking from stasis. The reports her mother had left for her. Earth's Deep Space Observation Network was the most extensive in the galaxy. Humans built it because we were paranoid. We came from a death world where everything wanted to kill us, so we never stopped watching for threats. Other species thought we were wasteful. Why spend so many resources watching empty space? She opened her eyes. "We found it 320 years ago. At first we thought it was a natural phenomenon, a massive energy signature moving through deep space, consuming everything in its path. Then we realized it was alive, intelligent, a collective consciousness made up of absorbed civilizations. Every species it encountered, it added to itself. Their knowledge, their ships, their biological matter, everything." The room was silent now. Even had stopped interrupting. The chorus moved slowly, but it never stopped. Our mathematicians ran projections. At its current speed, it would reach the galactic core in 130 years. Every populated system would be consumed. Every species added to the collective. Trillions of lives ended. "Why did humanity not warn the galaxy?" the third interrogator asked softly. "We tried at first. My mother showed me the records. Earth's government sent messages to the Galactic Council. But who would believe the aggressive newcomers claiming an invisible threat was coming to destroy everyone? Some species thought we were trying to start a panic. Others believed it was a human trick to gain power." His voice grew harder. "So humanity made a choice. If the galaxy would not believe us, we would handle it ourselves. We initiated the Exodus Protocol." She explained it piece by piece. How Earth's governments had pooled every resource. How they built ships in secret, out beyond the solar system where no one was watching. How they organized the largest evacuation in human history while making it look like normal activity. The silence was deliberate, said. Every human settlement, every colony, every ship received orders simultaneously. Go dark. Stop all transmissions. Make it look like we disappeared. Let the galaxy think we destroyed ourselves or died from plague. Let them forget about us. Why? Chancellor asked. Because humanity needed to move our entire civilization without anyone noticing. We needed time to prepare, time to build weapons and train soldiers, time to study the chorus and learn how to fight it. But you said you were 7, pointed out. How did you survive? This part hurt most to tell. Humanity made another choice. The adults would stay and fight. The children would be saved. 8 sleeper ships were built, each carrying 10,000 children in stasis. I was placed on Ship 7 with my brother Minyu. Her voice cracked slightly. My mother came to say goodbye the night before launch. She held me and told me I would sleep for a long time. When I woke up, I would be somewhere safe, far away from the fighting. She made me promise to be strong, to remember Earth, to remember what humanity was capable of, both good and bad. I asked her when she would come find me. She smiled and said that she and my father had important work to do first, that they loved me more than all the stars in the sky. Then she gave me an injection, and I fell asleep in her arms. Wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. I woke up 20 years ago. Ship 7 had traveled for 296 years. Most of the adults who crewed the ship had died from stasis complications. Only 12 survived to wake us. I was biologically 15 years old, though I had been born 3 centuries earlier. The crew told us everything, showed us the messages our parents had left. My mother had recorded one for me and Minyu. She explained about the chorus, about humanity's choice to fight alone, about how the sleeper ships carried humanity's future, sent to the galactic rim where we would be safe even if Earth fell. Chancellor on skin had shifted to pale green, uncertainty giving way to something that might have been belief. What happened to your brother? His jaw tightened. Minyu's stasis pod failed. He died 200 years before I woke up, just like 43% of the children on our ship, just like 70% of the adults. We lost 6,400 people before we even reached our destination. The room fell quiet again. Security chief spoke, his voice less aggressive now. Let us say your story is true. Where is the rest of humanity? Where are your parents, your friend? Fighting, said simply. Or dead, I do not know which. The sleeper ships were meant to be one-way journeys. We were never supposed to have contact with those who stayed behind. My mother's message said that once we were safe, humanity would use every resource, every ship, every soldier to slow down the chorus, to buy the galaxy time. 300 years of time, she continued. 300 years for the galaxy to advance, to grow stronger, to be ready when the chorus finally arrived. Humanity sacrificed itself to give you 3 centuries you did not even know you needed. And you expect us to believe this? Asked, though his tone suggested he was starting to. I expect you to verify it, replied. My DNA will match human records from before the silence. The sleeper ship that brought me here is still in orbit around Station 9, exactly where my mother's coordinates said it would be. And if you check your deep space observation data carefully, you will find traces of the chorus approaching. Slower than it should be, because something has been fighting it for 300 years. Chancellor stood abruptly. We will verify your claims, all of them. If you are lying, you will face severe consequences. If you are telling the truth. He trailed off, unable to finish the thought. If she was telling the truth, then the galaxy had spent 3 centuries celebrating the death of the species that was actively saving them. If she was telling the truth, then humanity had made a sacrifice so profound that the entire galactic community owed them a debt that could never be repaid. One more question, the third interrogator asked gently. Why reveal yourself now? Why not continue hiding? Looked at each of them in turn. Because the chorus is still coming. Because humanity has been fighting alone for 300 years, and I do not know how much longer they can hold. Because I woke up in a galaxy that thinks my people are extinct, and I refuse to let their sacrifice be forgotten. And because, she added quietly, somewhere out there my parents might still be fighting. If there is any chance they are alive, any chance at all, then the galaxy needs to know the truth, needs to help them, needs to finally join the fight. She stood from her chair, meeting their eyes with the direct human gaze that made so many species uncomfortable. So verify my story, check your data, search your records, and then decide if you are going to help the species that has been saving you or if you are going to let them die alone in the dark. The interrogation ended there. Guards escorted to a holding cell while the verification process began. As she sat alone in the small room, she thought about her mother's final message, about the promise she had made to remember. Humanity was not gone, not yet. And now, the galaxy was going to learn exactly what the deadliest species had been doing for 300 years. Dr. Sora Nam arrived at the university 3 days after its revelation. She was famous across the galaxy for her work studying extinct civilizations. Thin and precise, with silver skin that seemed to glow in certain lights, she carried herself with the confidence of someone who dealt in facts, not theories. Chancellor On met her at the entrance to the genetics laboratory. "Thank you for coming on such short notice." "You claim to have a living human," Sora replied coolly. "I had to see for myself if you were delusional or if the universe had just become far more interesting." They walked through corridors filled with scientific equipment. Sora had spent 15 years studying human artifacts, abandoned stations, ghost ships, empty colonies. She knew human genetic markers better than anyone alive. If anyone could verify its identity, it was her. Sat in the testing chamber, watching through a glass wall as technicians prepared equipment. She had given blood samples, hair samples, cheek swabs, had answered questions about human biology and culture, had described Earth's continents and oceans from memory. Now came the final verification. Sora entered the chamber alone. She studied for a long moment, her scientific mind cataloging every detail. The bilateral symmetry, the forward-facing eyes of a predator, the opposable thumbs, the complete lack of natural armor or weapons. "I have spent most of my career studying your species," Sora said finally. "I never expected to meet one. I never expected to be the last one anyone had seen in 300 years, replied. Sora pulled up holographic displays showing the test results. DNA sequences rotated in the air between them. "Your genetic markers are definitively human, not just similar, identical to samples we have from before the silence, and your telomeres show something fascinating." She expanded one section of the display. "Your cells show the characteristic degradation pattern of extended stasis. Your biological age is early 20s, but your cellular structure tells a different story. You have indeed been alive for over 300 years. Sora's voice held a note of wonder. "Your story checks out. You are human." Felt something release in her chest. After 20 years of hiding, someone finally believed her. "But you are not alone, are you?" Sora continued. "The records mention 8 sleeper ships. Ship 7 was mine. I do not know what happened to the others." "Then perhaps we should find out." Over the next week, Sora became an unlikely ally. Threw herself into the search with fierce determination. She accessed every database in the galactic network, searching for anomalies, strange species that did not quite match known profiles. What she found changed everything. "There," Sora pointed at her display. "Station 9, where your ship arrived. Medical records show a patient named Han who required treatment for unknown genetic condition 12 years ago. The description of her physiology matches human biology exactly. Whispered, she remembered a girl with bright eyes who loved to draw. They had played together on Ship 7 before going into stasis. She survived. They found more. A man named running an agricultural collective on a frontier world. His workers described him as incredibly durable, able to work longer hours than any other species. Human persistence hunting adapted to farming. Others scattered across the galaxy. Some living openly, their human features explained away as rare genetic variations. Others hiding more carefully. All of them children from the sleeper ships, now grown into adults in a galaxy that thought their species was extinct. Sora helped make contact, cautious messages sent through encrypted channels, careful questions to verify identity. The first response came from, "I thought I was alone. I thought everyone else had died." Her message included a data file, a recording from her mother, similar to what had received, more pieces of humanity's final plan, more information about the chorus and the fight against it. Sent coordinates for a meeting. "We should gather. We should talk about what comes next." But before they could organize anything, Admiral summoned them to the Galactic Council. The council chamber was massive. Representatives from hundreds of worlds sat in circular tiers that rose toward a domed ceiling. Stood in the center, feeling very small. Beside her, Sora provided moral support and scientific credibility. Admiral commanded the presentation from his position among the military representatives. He was old for his species, with scars that told stories of ancient battles. His voice carried authority that silenced the murmuring crowd. "We have the humans' claims. Dr. Sora Nam will present her findings." Sora stepped forward, her holographic displays appearing above the chamber floor for all to see. She showed the genetic data, the sleeper ship records, the locations of other human survivors. Her voice was calm and professional as she destroyed 3 centuries of assumed history. Humanity is not extinct. They initiated a controlled disappearance for reasons we are now investigating. Multiple human survivors exist throughout the galaxy, descended from their evacuation protocols. The chamber erupted, representatives shouting over each other, some demanding the humans be quarantined, others calling for immediate investigation, fear and anger mixing together in a cacophony of alien voices. Order's voice cut through the chaos. "There is more. Show them the astronomical data." Sora's expression grew grim. She pulled up deep space scans, data that had been collected over centuries but never properly analyzed. "When we began investigating claims about the chorus, we found something in the observation records, an energy signature that matches her descriptions. It has been present in our data for over 200 years, but no one was looking for it." The hologram showed a massive shape moving through deep space, consuming everything in its path, growing larger with each civilization it absorbed. "The chorus is real," Sora said quietly, "and it is heading toward the galactic core." Panic spread through the chamber faster than wildfire. Representatives standing, demanding answers, calling for their ships to evacuate. But was studying the data more carefully. Her mother had taught her to look for patterns, to see what others missed, and there was something wrong with the chorus's trajectory. "It is moving too slowly," she said. Sora looked at her sharply. "What?" "According to the projections my mother left me, the chorus should be much closer by now. It is moving at less than half the speed it should be." His heart began to race. Something has been slowing it down. Sora ran calculations on her display, checking the numbers. Her silver skin paled. "You are correct. Based on its initial velocity, the chorus should have reached the outer colonies 50 years ago, but it has been delayed, consistently delayed for approximately 300 years. The implication hung in the air like a physical weight. "Humanity," Admiral said slowly, "has been fighting it this entire time." Felt tears sting her eyes. Her parents, Somewhere out there in the dark, humanity had been fighting a war the galaxy did not even know existed, for 300 years, alone. A representative from the Confederacy stood, his carapace clicking with agitation. "This is the humans' fault. They brought this threat to our attention. They should handle it alone." "They have been handling it alone." His voice rang out clear and strong. "For 300 years, while you celebrated their extinction, humans have been dying to protect you, to buy you time you never knew you needed." "How do we know you are not lying?" another representative challenged. "This could be a human trick." "To what end?" Sora interjected, her scientific authority cutting through the accusations. "What would humans gain by pretending to fight an invisible enemy? The genetic evidence is irrefutable. The astronomical data confirms a massive threat approaching, and the trajectory analysis proves something has been interfering with its progress." Admiral pulled up military reports on his display. "I have been reviewing our border patrol records. For centuries, we have received reports of unexplained energy signatures near the galactic rim, ships appearing briefly then vanishing, debris fields that match no known vessel designs. We classified these as sensor glitches or natural phenomena." He paused, his old eyes meeting. "They were battles, human forces engaging the chorus while we patrolled our comfortable borders, never knowing what was being kept from our doorstep." The chamber fell silent, the weight of 3 centuries of sacrifice settling over them. A representative from one of the older species, a being of pure energy contained in a crystalline matrix, spoke in a voice like wind chimes. "If humanity has been fighting for 300 years, how many of them remain?" Thought of the 8 sleeper ships, 10,000 children each, 80,000 young humans scattered to the galactic rim, and behind them how many adults had stayed to fight? Billions, millions. How many were left now? "I do not know," she admitted. "We lost all contact when the sleeper ships launched. That was the plan. Save the children, fight with everyone else. No communication that the chorus could intercept and trace." "Then we must find out," Admiral declared. "We must send a reconnaissance mission to the last known engagement zones. We must learn if any human forces remain." "And if they do?" someone asked. "Then the galaxy owes them reinforcement," the Admiral said firmly. "We owe them the support they should have had 300 years ago." The vote was called. It was not unanimous. Fear and prejudice still clouded some minds, but the majority agreed. A relief mission would be sent to find the remaining human forces. Would lead them there. That night, she sat in Sora's laboratory, looking at the star charts showing the chorus's approach. Her mother's last message played again on a small screen. "Be strong, remember Earth, remember what we were capable of." "I remember," whispered, "and soon everyone else will too." Across the galaxy, other humans received the news, on her medical station, on his farm world, dozens of others emerging from hiding, ready to reclaim their identity. Humanity was not gone. They had been fighting in the dark, bleeding to protect a galaxy that had forgotten them. But the silence was ending, and the deadliest species in galactic history was about to remind everyone why they were so feared. Not because they were monsters, but because they were willing to become monsters to protect those they loved, even when those they protected did not deserve it. The Deep Space Monitoring Station at the edge of the galactic arm had operated on automatic protocols for decades. Its sensors swept through the void, recording data that few beings ever reviewed. Most of the galaxy considered the outer rim dead space, not worth watching. Which was why the technician on duty almost missed the signal. Was 3 hours into a 12-hour shift, half asleep at his console when the alert chimed. He blinked at the screen, certain it was another malfunction. The outer rim produced nothing but cosmic background radiation and the occasional asteroid. But the signal was real, repeating, broadcast across multiple frequencies in patterns that matched no natural phenomenon. And it was in old Earth languages. Sat up straight, his 4 hands flying across the controls. He routed the signal to the main computers, boosted the reception, and began recording. His supervisor needed to hear this. The entire galaxy needed to hear this. The message resolved into words, a voice, human and exhausted, speaking into the void. "This is Commander Ryu of the UESS Endurance, 3rd Human Expeditionary Fleet. Ship registry Tango Echo 77. Date mark 312 years, 8 months, 14 days since Operation Exodus began." The voice paused, heavy breathing, the sound of alarms in the background. "Continuous engagement duration, 312 years. Fleet strength when operation began, 847 vessels. Current fleet strength, 11 vessels. Personnel when operation began, 400,000. Current personnel, approximately 2,400. Listened in growing horror. "Casualties, 94%. We have bought you time, 312 years of time. We are sending compressed tactical data, engagement records, and analysis of enemy capabilities. Transmission size, 400 petabytes. Encryption, human military standard from year 2041. The codes are included." Another pause, longer this time. "Humanity's children, if you survived the journey, this message is for you. We held the line. Your parents, your families, your friends. We fought for every day, every hour. We learned how to hurt them, how to slow them, how to make them pay for every light year." The commander's voice cracked. "But we cannot hold much longer." The chorus adapts. "They learn from every engagement. What worked 10 years ago fails now. We are out of time and almost out of ships. This is our final stand. We are transmitting the coordinates of our last defensive position. Tell the galaxy what we did here. Tell them humanity did not go quietly. We bled for every species that ever mocked us, feared us, or celebrated our disappearance. We died so they could live in ignorance." The message ended with coordinate data and the massive tactical file, then silence. Immediately forwarded everything to Galactic Command. Within hours, the message reached Admiral. Within a day, it was presented to the Galactic Council. Within a week, stood before an assembly of military leaders, listening to her people's final transmission. She wept openly as the commander's voice filled the chamber. Around her, even the most hardened military officers looked shaken. Commander Ryu. She did not know him, but he could have been her father, could have been any of the adults who had stayed behind to fight, who had kissed their children goodbye and sent them into the dark, knowing they would never see them again. Admiral studied the tactical data with grim fascination. "This is remarkable. Humans have been fighting a war unlike anything in galactic history. Their strategies, their weapons, their sheer persistence." He pulled up battle reports from the data file. Engagements spanning decades. Human ships using guerrilla tactics, hit-and-run attacks, asymmetric warfare, never fighting fair, always retreating, regrouping, adapting. "They have been delaying a force that should have consumed the galaxy a century ago," a military analyst reported. "The chorus has overwhelming numbers and adaptive technology. By all strategic models, humanity should have been destroyed in the first decade." "But they were not," Sora said quietly. She had been analyzing the biological data included in the transmission. "Because humans are persistence hunters. They do not need to win every battle. They only need to never stop fighting." Looked at the star charts showing the coordinates Commander Ryu had transmitted. "How far?" 43 light-years beyond our furthest outpost," Admiral replied. "At maximum speed, we could reach them in 4 months. Then we should leave now. The Council has not authorized a relief mission." "The Council," said with barely controlled fury, "has had 300 years to authorize help. My people are dying right now. Every day we delay, more of them die. I will not let them make their final stand alone." Admiral regarded her steadily. Then he smiled, an expression that looked fierce on his face. "I was hoping you would say that. I have been preparing a fleet since we first your story." Within 2 weeks, the largest combined military force in galactic history began assembling. Not everyone supported the mission. The council debates were bitter and divisive, but enough species recognized their debt. Enough leaders understood that if humanity fell, the chorus would continue its approach with nothing left to slow it. Captain Bora Shin commanded the relief fleet. She was brilliant and ruthless. She had studied the human tactical data obsessively, analyzing 3 centuries of combat reports with the focus of someone who knew she would soon face the same enemy. "Humans fight like nothing else," she told her officers during the briefing. "They use physics as a weapon. They hide in stellar radiation. They lure enemies into gravity wells. They sacrifice ships to destroy larger formations. Every battle is calculated for maximum damage with minimum resources." "They fight like they have nothing to lose," one officer observed. "No," Bora corrected. "They fight like they have everything to lose, like they are protecting something precious. That makes them far more dangerous." Joined the fleet as a civilian liaison, along with, and a young man named. Had lost both parents when his sleeper ship's crew section failed. He was barely 20, biologically speaking, but he had the same hard determination in his eyes that recognized from looking in mirrors. "My parents fought," said simply when asked why he volunteered. "I will not let them fight alone, even if I am 300 years late." The fleet jumped toward the coordinates. 4 months of travel through empty space, each day bringing them closer to a battle that had raged for centuries. They arrived at a graveyard. The debris field stretched for thousands of kilometers. Shattered ships of both human and chorus design tumbled through the void. Some wrecks were centuries old, their hulls by weapons that no longer existed. Others were recent, still venting atmosphere and radiation. "Sensors are reading active combat," the tactical officer reported. "Multiple energy signatures ahead." On the main, the battle came into view. 3 human vessels, each one barely holding together, fought against a chorus formation of 50 ships. The human ships moved with desperate precision, using every trick in 3 centuries of accumulated knowledge. They fired, retreated, used the debris field for cover, emerged to fire again. But they were losing, slowly, inevitably, being ground down by an enemy that simply had more resources. "All ships," Captain Bora's voice rang across the fleet channels. "Engage, show them they are not alone." The relief fleet dropped out of jump space directly into the combat zone. 400 ships from dozens of species, all of them here because humanity had bled for 3 centuries to protect them. The chorus formation turned to face the new threat. Their ships moved with eerie coordination, the collective intelligence directing them as one organism. Bora smiled coldly. "Fire." The battle was savage. The chorus fought with technology absorbed from countless civilizations, but the galactic fleet fought with purpose and the knowledge that humanity had paid for with blood. They used the tactics from the human data files, coordinated strikes, asymmetric warfare, fighting smart instead of fair. And slowly, incredibly, the chorus formation began to retreat. For the first time in 300 years, the chorus pulled back. On the bridge of her command ship, watched through as one of the battered human vessels limped toward the fleet. Its hull was scorched and holed. Its weapons were silent, but it was still moving. "Hailing frequency open," the communications officer announced. A face appeared on the screen. An older human man, his features gaunt, and he stared at the fleet, at the hundreds of alien ships that had come to fight, and his expression shattered. "This is Commander Ryu," he said, his voice breaking. "UESS Endurance, we thought." He could not finish the sentence. Admiral appeared on the channel from his flagship. Commander Ryu, this is Admiral of the Galactic Defense Force. Your transmission was received. We have come to reinforce your position. Ryu, who had fought for 312 years without relief, who had watched 94% of his people die, who had made final stands a dozen times only to somehow survive and fight again, covered his face with his hands and wept. Felt tears streaming down her own face. Around her on the bridge, even the alien crew members were affected by the raw emotion in the commander's breakdown. "Request permission to come aboard," said quietly. Looked up, focusing on her image. His eyes widened as he recognized human features. You are. Sleeper Ship 7. My mother was. She worked on deep space analysis. My father was Song, planetary defense. The commander's expression shifted through a dozen emotions. Recognition, memory, grief. I knew them. Your father served in my division before the Exodus. Your mother's work was what found the chorus. Are they? Could not finish the question. Shook his head slowly. They died in the Battle of the Nebula 87 years ago. They held the line so the rest of us could retreat. They were heroes. Closed her eyes. She had known, logically, that her parents were almost certainly dead. 300 years was too long, but hearing it confirmed still hurt like a fresh wound. But they sent you away first, continued, his voice stronger now. They saved you, and you brought the galaxy to save us. They would be so proud. The relief fleet established a defensive perimeter around the last human vessels. Medical teams transferred across to help the wounded. Supply ships began emergency repairs. And for the first time in 300 years, human soldiers rested knowing that someone else was watching their backs. In the command center of the Endurance met the survivors face to face. 2,400 humans, all that remained from 400,000. They looked at her and the other sleeper ship survivors with wonder. We hope some of you made it, an engineer named said. We never knew, just had to trust that the ships reached the rim safely. 7 of 8 ships arrived, told them. Not all of us survived the journey, but enough did. There are hundreds of us scattered across the galaxy. Commander Ryu pulled up tactical displays showing the chorus's movements. They will be back. This retreat is temporary. They are regrouping. Then we need to be ready, Captain Bora said. Your tactical data has been distributed to all fleet commanders. We will learn from your experience, and we will fight together. Looked at the assembled aliens, at the massive fleet that represented species humanity had never asked for help, and shook his head in wonder. 300 years, he said quietly. We fought alone for 300 years, and now. Now you are not alone, Admiral finished. Humanity bought us 3 centuries. The least we can do is stand with you for the battles ahead. Stood beside the old commander, looking out at the fleet. Somewhere in the wreckage around them were the remains of the ships her parents had died on, but their sacrifice had not been meaningless. The silence had broken, and humanity's children had come home. 5 years had passed since the relief fleet found Commander Ryu and his survivors. 5 years of coordinated warfare against the chorus, pushing back the collective intelligence that had consumed civilizations for. The battle was far from over, but for the first time, the galaxy was winning. Stood on Earth's surface, her feet on soil her ancestors had walked. The planet looked different from the images in her mother's files. Scars crossed the landscape where battles had been fought. Cities stood empty, reclaimed by vegetation. The oceans still sparkled blue, but the coastlines had changed. Yet it was beautiful, it was home. I never thought I would see it, said beside her. She knelt and picked up a handful of dirt, letting it run through her fingers. 300 years. Earth waited 300 years. The reclamation of Earth had taken 2 years of planning. The chorus had never reached the Sol system. Humanity's defensive lines had held that far at least, but the planet itself had been abandoned during the Exodus. Everything of value had been stripped away to build the war fleet. What remained was a ghost world. Until now. Walked across the field where they stood, his farmer's eye assessing the soil. It is good land. It will grow things again. We just need to bring it back to life. Behind them, transport ships descended from orbit. The first wave of colonists, humans pulled from stasis deep beneath Earth's surface. Millions of people who had been frozen before the Exodus, preserved in bunkers that had waited centuries for this moment. Dr. Soranam approached, her silver skin gleaming in Earth's sunlight. She had insisted on being part of the reclamation effort, claiming it was for scientific documentation, but knew better. Sora had become their friend, their advocate, their bridge to a galaxy that was still learning to trust humanity again. The stasis facilities are more extensive than we thought, Sora reported. Current estimates suggest 43 million humans in various bunker complexes worldwide. The awakening process will take years. 43 million, repeated softly, plus the 2,000 from the war fleet, plus the few hundred from the sleeper ships. Humanity survived. Because your parents planned for every possibility, Sora replied. They sent children to the rim. They built a war fleet. And they hid a population in stasis, betting that someday someone would return to wake them. Admiral joined them, his old frame moving carefully in Earth's slightly higher gravity. He had retired from active military service but had insisted on being present for Earth's reclamation. The Galactic Council has officially recognized Earth as humanity's sovereign world. No species may claim it. No corporation may exploit it. It is yours, returned to you with the galaxy's apologies. Apologies cannot bring back the dead, said quietly. He stood apart from the group, his young face hard, had fought in the fleet battles over the past 5 years, channeling his anger at a galaxy that had let his parents die alone. No, agreed. They cannot, but acknowledgement matters. The galaxy has erected a memorial station in orbit around Earth. Every species that benefited from humanity's sacrifice contributed to its construction. It lists the names of every human who died fighting the chorus. He paused, his expression somber. 400,000 names, including in song. Felt her throat tighten. Her parents' names, carved in stone and metal, orbiting the world they had died to protect. It was not enough. It would never be enough, but it was something. Commander Ryu walked slowly across the field toward them. He had aged visibly in the 5 years since the relief fleet arrived. 300 years of combat, even accounting for relativistic time dilation during long-range jumps, had taken their toll. But he had insisted on seeing Earth one final time. I remember this place, he said, looking around. Before the war, before everything, I used to bring my daughter to a park near here. She loved the trees. What happened to her? Asked gently. Sleeper Ship 4, I never learned if it made it. His voice held ancient pain. I sent her away and then fought for 3 centuries, never knowing if she survived. Ship 4 reached the rim, said. We made contact with some of its survivors 2 years ago. We can search their records. Shook his head. I am afraid to know. If she died, then I sent her away for nothing. If she lived, then I missed her entire life. Either answer destroys me. She lived, a new voice said. They all turned. A woman approached from one of the newly landed transports. She was in her 40s with eyes and cheekbones. She moved with military precision, wearing the uniform of the Galactic Fleet. Captain Ryu, she identified herself. Ship 4 survivor, Engineering Division. And yes, before you ask, I spent the last 5 years searching for a commander named Ryu, the man who sent me away when I was 6 years old and told me he would see me soon. Stared at her, disbelief and hope warring on his face. I am 41 now biologically, she said. Though I have been alive for 320 years, I grew up hearing about my father who stayed behind to fight, who sacrificed everything. I joined the fleet 5 years ago hopping to find you, to tell you that your sacrifice was not wasted, that I became someone you could be proud of. crossed the distance between them in 3 long strides, and pulled his daughter into his arms. He was sobbing, his shoulders shaking with the weight of 3 centuries of grief finally released. Around them, everyone looked away, giving them privacy for a reunion that had been delayed for lifetimes. Watched and thought about her own parents. They would never have a reunion like this, but perhaps, in some way, this moment was for them too, for all the parents who had sent their children away, for all the families broken by humanity's choice. Later, they gathered in what had once been a city center. The buildings were overgrown, nature reclaiming concrete and steel, but it was still recognizable as a human place. Street grids, architectural styles, signs in languages that had not been spoken aloud for centuries. Professor stood among the ruins. The old scholar had requested to join the reclamation mission, wanting to see the world he had taught about for so long. He looked diminished among the human structures, his 4 arms wrapped around himself as if cold. "I was wrong," he said when he saw. "Everything I taught about humanity, I was wrong." "You taught what the galaxy believed," replied. "I taught that humans were dangerous because they were violent, because they came from a death world, because they were unpredictable." He gestured at the empty city. "I never considered that those same qualities would make them the galaxy's saviors, that their violence could be directed outward to protect others, that their death world evolution would let them survive battles that would destroy any other species." He looked at her with ancient eyes. "I taught my students to fear humanity. I should have taught them to be grateful." "Teach them now," suggested. "You have a second chance to get it right." Nodded slowly. "I am writing a new textbook, The Species That Saved Us, A History of Humanity's Sacrifice. I hope you will review it before publication." "I will." Over the following months, Earth came back to life. Stasis bunkers were opened across every continent. Millions of humans woke to a world 3 centuries older, to the knowledge that their species had fought and bled and nearly gone extinct while they slept. Some woke to find their families had survived in other bunkers. Others learned they were alone, their loved ones lost to the war or the long stasis. Grief and joy mixed together as humanity rebuilt. The sleeper ship survivors became guides and teachers, helping the newly awakened adjust to the changed galaxy. Found purpose in this work, helping people who were just as displaced as she had been. And slowly, humanity's voice returned to the galactic community, not as the aggressive newcomers who had joined 3 centuries ago, not as the extinct cautionary tale they had become, but as the species that had sacrificed everything to protect people who had never asked for their help. Ships arrived from across the galaxy, donations of resources, technology, aid. Species that had celebrated humanity's disappearance now competed to support their return, some out of genuine gratitude, others from guilt. But it did not matter. Earth needed help and the galaxy provided it. The battle against the chorus continued, but now humanity fought alongside allies. The combined tactics, the shared knowledge, the coordination between species with different strengths, it was working. The chorus was being pushed back, sector by sector. Doctor, the lead who had survived the war fleet, made a breakthrough. By studying the chorus's collective intelligence and combining it with insights from dozens of species, she found a weakness, a frequency that disrupted their neural linking, a way to separate the collective into individual components. The weapon built from her research turned the tide. The chorus began to crumble, its absorbed civilizations fragmenting back into separate minds. Some remained hostile. Others were simply confused, waking from centuries of collective consciousness. But they were no longer the unstoppable force they had been. Humanity had not just delayed the galaxy's extinction. They had found the key to defeating it. 5 years after standing on Earth for the first time, stood in a classroom at Galactic University, the same lecture hall where she had revealed herself to Professor. But now, she was the one at the front of the room. Students from 100 worlds sat in the curved rows. They listened as she began her lecture, their faces attentive and respectful. 300 years ago, said, humanity made a choice. We discovered a threat to all galactic life. We tried to warn others, but we were not believed, so we chose to handle it ourselves. She pulled up images of Earth, of the war fleet, of the memorial station in orbit. We initiated the silence. We sent our children to safety. We marshaled every adult, every ship, every resource. And we went to fight a war that we knew would probably kill us all, not because we were suicidal, not because we were warmongers, but because we understood something fundamental. Looked around the room, meeting the eyes of students who represented the species her parents had died to protect. We understood that when you see something that threatens everyone you know, everyone you love, everyone who exists, you do not wait for permission to act. You do not debate endlessly. You do not calculate the cost. You fight. You endure. You sacrifice. Because that is what it means to be responsible for the safety of others. My parents died in that fight. Commander Ryu's entire fleet died in that fight. 400,000 humans gave everything so you could sit here today, safe and alive, learning about the species that saved you. She paused, letting the weight of those words settle. Some of you probably wonder if humans are still dangerous, if our capacity for violence makes us a threat. The answer is yes. We are dangerous. Every human in this galaxy carries the genetic legacy of survivors, of hunters, of people who refuse to quit even when quitting would be easier. But here is what you need to understand. That same capacity for violence is also a capacity for protection. The same persistence that let us hunt animals for days lets us fight wars for centuries. The same pattern recognition that helped us track prey helps us find weaknesses in impossible enemies. Everything that makes us dangerous makes us essential when true threats arise. Humanity could have fled to the galactic rim with our children. We could have hidden and let the chorus consume everyone else. No one would have blamed us. The galaxy had never been kind to humans, but we stayed. We fought. We died, because we understood that our strength came with responsibility. 300 years ago, the galaxy thought the deadliest species was gone. They were relieved. Glad to be rid of the uncomfortable humans who asked too many questions and pushed too many boundaries. Smiled though her eyes were sad. But the deadliest species was not gone. We were fighting in the dark so you could live in the light. We were bleeding so you never had to know there was a threat. We were making a final stand so you could continue your peaceful existence. Today, I teach you this history not to make you feel guilty. Guilt without action is useless. I teach you so you understand what sacrifice looks like. So you recognize that strength without compassion is meaningless, but compassion without strength is helpless. Humanity is home now. Earth is rebuilding. Our population is growing. We are not numerous enough to threaten anyone even if we wanted to. But we are here. We are part of this galaxy. And if another threat like the chorus ever emerges, we will be the first to stand against it. Not because we are suicidal, but because we are human, and humans protect. She finished her lecture to absolute silence. Then slowly the students began to stand, one by one, species after species, until the entire lecture hall was on its feet, paying respect to the species that had saved them all. Outside the university, Earth's sun was setting. Walked through streets that were slowly filling with human voices again, children playing, families gathering, life returning after 3 centuries of absence. She thought about her brother Minyu, who had never woken from stasis, about her friend, whose sleeper ship had been lost to a navigation error, about her parents, whose names were carved in the memorial station above. They had all sacrificed so this moment could happen, so humanity could come home, so Earth could live again. The deadliest species was not gone. They had just been fighting where no one was watching. But now everyone knew, everyone understood, and the galaxy would never forget what humanity had done. or what humanity was capable of doing again, if they had to. Looked up at the stars, at the vast galaxy that her species had saved, and smiled. Earth remembers, she thought, and now the galaxy remembers too.